Dr. Mercedes, as a bilingual psychologist, I'm sure that you are faced with a lot of different Spanish-speaking individuals that come to seek your services.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody about what they could expect, or some of their fears, or what are some typical fears that a patient might have who's coming from a Spanish-speaking background?
Excellent question. So this is the reality. Some of our cultures do not necessarily support or even teach people about mental health. And so what ends up happening is that people sort of develop or just adopt whatever ideas are out there, either from family members or from just culture in general, whatever is spread by the media. And so what ends up happening is that people come in with concerns about, does this mean I'm crazy? Does this mean that, I'm nuts? What is my family going to think about me? What are they going to say? They find out that I'm seeing a shrink, right? So I go over them about what is, mental health, right? And so if mental health was to be just like physical health, right? If you didn't feel well, what would be the rational thing for you to do? And, they usually tell, well, if you have a headache, what do you do? Oh, I'll take an aspirin. Or if your back hurts, I'll put a heating pad or something. Come up with something, right? Well, what do you do when your mental health is in jeopardy, right? The question, sort of answers itself every single time. They usually come up with their own answers about, well, I should seek a professional that can help me with my mental health issues. So at the end of the day, I try to just bring them to the idea that, this is something that is good for me to do. And so that's one of the biggest challenges that I faced, helping individuals understand that this is something that they do for themselves. And that is, and recognizing, acknowledging that there is stigma out there, but that at the same time, they need to do whatever is best for themselves at that.
And so, Dr. Mercedes, I think I remember you're from the Dominican Republic, is
That's
that right?
Correct, yeah.
And so I imagine that some people who are from Dominican Republic, they might think that they have a very similar background as you do.
Yeah.
Is that always true?
Oh, absolutely. And it's very interesting because part of the process of educating people that come into the clinic is just showing how we may have similarities in terms of either the way that we look or even the language that we speak. But there are no assumptions to be made. And I tell them that about themselves too. Just because we're Dominican, I'm not going to assume that I know everything about you, and that's for all Latinos across the board. There are so many different cultural differences across Latino experiences, and so many even experiences in regards to race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, that we cannot necessarily put a blanket statement. Well, you're Latino, I'm going to be able to help you. At the end of the day, I'm bilingual. That means I speak Spanish and English. But there's other things that I need to learn about you in order for me to actually be able to help you.
So one last question. So if you think about, why is it important for someone who's Spanish speaking to maybe receive services in Spanish?
Absolutely. Well, so there are certain things that I experience myself, right? Whenever I am thinking about something that makes me really happy or something that I'm very passionate or emotional about, I go into my home language, which is Spanish, right? So whatever it is, I'm like, yeah, mira qué cosa, right? I immediately go into my Spanish language. Why? Because that's where I feel comfortable. And so sometimes I work with patients who speak both English and Spanish, but they want to be able to express whatever their emotions are in the language that they actually connect with. And so sometimes they come in there and they will say, well, do you speak Spanish? And we're having an English conversation, but they want to know if I speak Spanish so that they can have the rest of the conversation or the rest of the session in Spanish. Well, so that's why I think that, Spanish-speaking people who feel that connection with their language should be able to seek a Spanish-speaking clinician and have that available to them if that's what they need.
All right, so maybe there's one more question. So if somebody's looking for services, is there some place you can send somebody or some resource to maybe help a Spanish-speaking client to find a Spanish-speaking therapist?
So you're putting me on the spot on that one, and I'm going to ignore that for a moment. Well, this is, first of all, you have to start with some of your local services, right? Some of your local service providers. The reality is that there are not that many Spanish-speaking clinicians. What that means is that sometimes there will be limited resources available, or there might be a waiting list, a waiting period that you may have if you are seeking to receive Spanish services. Our goal is that there will be more bilingual clinicians coming down the line. But until then, there are organizations that you should be able to contact. Particularly, you can contact the Latino Psychological Association in New Jersey if you are in New Jersey. But you also should contact your local hospital or other agencies. If they don't have a Spanish-speaking clinician there, perhaps they know someone who does, and they may be able to give you a referral to that clinic.